Michelle disappeared to?
She's getting changed.
So here we're sitting in Josh and Michelle's living room, and the Braveman, Sabodash, and Bolter clan have gathered here. How about that? Well, here Jennifer in her favorite position.
People went to Rochester.
She doesn't know this is happening, but she will.
Yes, I do.
Oh, you do, huh? Okay. And this is the famous chest that appears on Josh's video of his apartment. That's attached to his wedding video. Is that right?
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, and here's one proud grandmother and another proud grandmother. Yeah. Well, and she. At least Arlene knows to smile when she's on camera. Now let's see if we can get one out of you here over here.
I don't smile, I look real awful.
Now, here's the daddy here, the daddy Norman. Oh, look at
There's the
that.
sister over there. Did you get the sister in?
Well, yeah, I got the sister in first.
The sister Rose.
The sister first. Norman's awake. You can't tell, but he is. Well, we'll have to wait for the rest of the gang to come in here. Ah, here's Benjamin. Here's Benjamin.
Where'd you get that time?
And here's the proud mama.
In
The proud mama.
a store called the Diamond Store in Cleveland, actually.
And what I just noticed, look straight ahead, Josh, not at the camera.
Why you didn't bring one with
Just straight ahead. What I noticed very interesting about Josh's profile, yeah, he has a John Barrymore profile. You know, I don't know if you noticed that. Do you ever notice that about your
I
profile?
don't know what John Barrymore from.
You don't know John Barrymore? A great actor, great actor. You have a similar profile. And what I just noticed for the first time today is Josh is getting a receding hairline.
Yeah, it's right over here.
Yeah, I can see right there.
Well, it was,
How about that?
yeah.
All right. There's a table that was laden with food about an hour ago.
You have
And
to,
that helped
No, there's
me
a
to
dress
get
code.
my flight
Usually,
because he said he didn't think I could get
It'll look presentable.
what I wanted.
Luke's.
Because more people.
But I thought.
And this is Josh's yearbook.
Unless you want another visit.
If you can't read it, it says Tufts University Medical School, 1997.
Flowers.
Would you prefer that?
Okay, and here is this
I don't know
page.
what I would do it. You know, or where.
Right.
Well, I'll look into it. See what,
Who's your friend in the picture?
who's that?
Yeah,
Well, that's a picture of me and Jennifer.
yeah, that I
And
know.
this is Dan and Amy. This is
Oh, that's your buddy
yeah, they're
Dan.
getting married in California.
Yeah,
And we're gonna have dinner with them tonight.
how about that? And
That's
here's
for the gala.
Josh and, you had a gala already?
We've had every year we have a gala.
Every year you have a gala, huh?
Every year.
You know, you used to be a cute kid. Okay.
When you're done, pass it back to
No, the funny thing happened in the, we were up at the
Well, here's the proud father-in-law. How
That's
about
for a
that?
whole night.
Huh? Yeah, you look good. Look very good on camera.
I can't see him.
Don't forget the shine on the shoe.
The shine on the shoes. Well, listen, if that's, oh boy, that is important.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very good.
It's got tags, they know.
Nice tie.
Yep.
Oh, there's a proud wife that
Hey, did
walked
you see
by.
this on here?
What's that?
Can you read it?
Can I read it? Wait a minute. Let me close in, see if I can read it.
That's not Josh.
Snake.
Just a minute. No, I'm afraid I can't. What's it say? I can't read it.
DM. Delco Moraine.
It says what?
Delco Moraine.
Oh, is that right?
General Motors, 25-year pin.
Oh, that's a 25-year pin from Velco? How about that?
Right.
That's
I
nice.
only got 25 years in there.
Did-
Won't they give you a watch or just?
They gave you a pin.
Well,
Just a
They give me-
pin?
No, I got this. Did you see this?
again.
Ah, here's Carol there.
That was my.
Hello there. Oh,
How the
The curlers.
Oh, the curler.
hey, listen, these pictures are only for the family. We know what family
This was
does.
from,
Yeah, the
say,
company-
25
yeah,
years.
The company gave me that. You wanna see it? Go ahead.
How's there?
This is the picture of the.
Well,
I had a choice.
Cup of coffee?
cup of coffee.
And then when I come in from
We're all
work,
dressed up.
my slippers.
You made both of these?
Yeah.
Very nice. Nice.
Who made this?
Now the only one we are waiting for is for
Nice.
Oh, this is two different ones.
Michelle.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, is that one of yours?
Jennifer made those.
Jennifer made those? When?
Could
I
you
made
make
this
me a
one.
beer
Is
mug?
this ceramics or?
Lately?
Pottery?
Yeah.
Pottery.
I actually have a couple that are big enough to be beer mugs.
Okay.
I'll get all these off here so I can.
Yeah, one as good as another. You shoot me, I shoot you.
Dad,
Well,
Benji, you're gonna be in too.
Wow. Look at the camera.
next time you get a digital. Here's
I
the
just learned her address last
here's the
month.
number of the
I
family
just
that.
learned her address last month or so.
now we have a new one.
Hello, just here we go. Here, wow, wow.
You can't get
I don't
Yeah.
have any more room in my address book for all of your addresses.
I've moved every year.
I know, I know it's awful. That's your mom where you
Oh, I
are.
see. Those are actually, yeah.
How do you like your shoes?
The only thing I cannot
Do you
remember
have
is
any
the zip code.
heel and toe?
These are.
Are they comfortable?
Yeah.
See, they have nothing there. Oh, yeah, they do.
Yeah.
They're
Need a
written
pen?
in Oxford.
Yeah.
They look,
Just
KILBOURNE
noticed.
place. Northwest.
Huh?
Northwest. Just NW.
Place, Park West.
No, place, comma,
Kind of large
Northwest.
for a small
NW.
woman.
I'll soon will be going.
Soon.
Washington DC.
Okay,
Riley.
better
So
go
let
ahead
me
now.
know.
Right now, you should do it.
Are they in there now?
20010.
All right.
Yes, somebody's in there. I'll watch for you.
Phone number is 202
It's so nice, she doesn't have to.
328 6363.
That's a phone number. You just make a right there.
Make a right on Market.
Make a right on Cambridge.
This is why you should follow them. Otherwise known as Market Street, a different intersection. We're, you want
Why are you
to?
wasting your
Okay.
breath? He's not even listening to you.
Josh.
He's writing it down.
No, you need to listen. It's not.
He's listening.
Make it right.
Hey, what about you?
So you should be going straight. But it's a funny intersection.
Did,
Alright.
There we are. Hi.
Hello.
You know, you're the last one I got on this tape.
I'm always
And but I always keep the last for best. Remember that. So that's the important.
very slow, that's why.
Is that what it is? Wow. And here they are, waiting. Waiting in the rain. You can see the kind of a day it is. Okay. All right.
You can't drive and film, Grandpa.
Want to film, you have to
Press the red button.
press the red button. And you see the red light
Yeah.
inside, so you know that you're on camera. And smile, you know,
Right.
because you don't want to look like a schlump or something. You want to look a little nice when they take your picture.
scallops and bacon.
I got it. Got it.
Oh, each floor.
We're gonna crash.
Each floor. We're going to the top. He's getting us upside
We're
down.
going to 9.
Are we in the right floor?
Let's go.
Taking a snapshot.
Office of the Dean. Whoever this is. Holy cow, a lot of people are here.
This one not too often, only for big parties.
This is the young man they took to the wedding party, the bachelorette party.
Oh, it will break the camera.
It should be flute bassoon and flute oboe and bassoon. And we'll play the last movement. Allegro con moto.
Terrific.
Do you have the music or not? I do have the music. I have the first part. Sorry.
Professor of Physiology, 1929, 1961. Go ahead, don't worry about it. This is the medical library. How about that? The library today is mostly computers. Hospital. The Boston Floating Hospital. I guess there must have been a shortage or something of hospital space, so they made a floating hospital.
1894.
Yeah. Begins its voyage.
Oh, see, it was a floating open on land in 1931.
In 1982, a new floating hospital for infants and children. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. It answered all the questions.
Yeah.
Hey, girl. I'm sorry.
The Rudolph party, the Rudolph party, they have.
What is a wheel? Like water rushing through a wheel? Is that a...
I don't know.
Huh?
Could be. I just don't know.
FVIO.
Bathrooms are down that way.
So what are we supposed to do?
There were some people out
So where's the bar?
Bar's right there.
The old lamplighter, do you remember that?
Beautiful women sing the entire chorus.
Well, I can't remember.
Before you even have the office, one of those guys was
Go right ahead.
The fact that
This camera will show, even in this dark, just by a candlelight. When you see these pictures, you'll recognize every person here. I think that's Josh there.
You don't have your bright lights on.
No, I don't have any lights on. And it's amazing. I was going to say, Grandma, can you tell me where you come from?
Do you want more? You want some more?
What are those?
I don't know. You want some more?
What are those?
I don't know. I'll find out.
Huh? It's amazing how this camera.
You don't need much light for that camera.
The light here is not great. Keep doing what you're doing, whatever it is. If you're talking,
The order of what drink you want. Just, you know, you'll have it in a minute.
and he'll pay for it.
A year from now, you may get it.
Yeah. But what is your name, sir?
I was in this other party of hearts. Jim.
Jim, you're Jim. Okay, I'm Aaron. All right. Aaron. Aaron Gobra.
This is Aaron.
Right.
You want to hang your coat?
Okay, and this is.
Aaron wants to know what you want to drink.
Aaron, what I want to drink.
He'll bring it at the end of the filming, maybe next year.
This is going directly down to the bar. That's the way it works.
This is new. This is new.
All right.
Drink video.
Nice to see you.
I think I lost my seat. All right. I guess I lost my seat, but that's all right.
Is this your seat?
Yeah.
I'll let you have mine.
Okay, you can sit right over there up front.
Joe? Hey, Joe. How are you? And you want the relatives? Gentlemen down there.
Here, you can look at mine. The light and getting back
I saw the chambers, but so it wasn't quite
I'm Amy's dad. Would you like some to drink?
Yes, I'll have a Jack Daniels on the rocks. With not too many rocks and a couple olives in it.
basically I did one day that's where
Here's for the kids. Here's for the grandparents. Here's for the uncles and aunts.
Here, here, here. Okay, everybody drink to that.
I'm accustomed as I am to public speaking. Since I don't have slides with me. I do want to officially announce that Sharon and I have become parents tomorrow is the official parenting.
How do you know you became parents tomorrow?
Well, in our tradition, the fetus is viable once they get the MD degree. We do that. But I would like to toast Josh and Dan
Here, here.
and Amy, who will be a PhD soon. And
Amy, are you pregnant?
Oh,
Are you announcing something?
the difference.
now wait a minute, let's keep this clean. It's on record.
Oh.
The difference being that the PhDs don't practice because they get it right the first time. Opposed to the MDs. And now that I've done all my put-down jokes of MDs, I do want to toast the two new doctors and welcome them to the fraternity of medicine and to toast to very, very wealthy surgeons and pediatricians.
At least you got the surgery.
Wealthy surgeons and happy.
No,
There you go.
And I would like to toast to the generation before, or two generations before,
who have been through school and have led the way. May I have anyone who has a bachelor's, master's, or PhD stand up?
All their glasses up against it.
Yeah. We worked hard and we believe the best in the next generation and wanted to help them understand the joy that we
I hope you kids feel very humble.
Broke.
And broke at this time.
Oh, we were
And
broke
heavily in
too.
debt.
Oh, we were broke too, and we survived.
Here. Here.
Now, I wonder if the senior member of this group would care to say a few words.
Go ahead, Dad.
No, I'm not the senior member. Arlene
Yeah, the
is.
trouble.
Arlene.
Say a few words.
Hey, Josh, I'm
Okay.
Dan wants to go first.
Shall I stand up?
Go,
Wait.
absolutely. Stand up, absolutely.
I didn't know I was going to do this, but I am very, very proud of my grandson Joshua, and I could toast to him.
All right, here.
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 I'd like to say something. First off, I'd like to thank Josh for organizing this wonderful meal that's brought two families together. Josh and I have grown pretty close during our time in medical school. We've gone fishing together, and he's. I think the neatest thing was when I asked him to be in my wedding party, and without hesitation, he said yes, wholeheartedly. And this is to travel out to California, some 3,200 miles away, to be present at our wedding, and I really appreciate that. I'd also like to thank everybody at the table, family, friends who've traveled long ways to be with us tonight, and I really are thankful for your support and love over the years. And I'd like to thank my mom and dad, of course, for without them, I would not be here, of course, but also the love, encouragement to travel this long road with so many bumps and turns and tribulations, but they've helped me through it. And I would especially like to thank Amy, my future wife, beautiful, radiant, glowing wife, and who's been there since the beginning of this process. And thank you very much.
Here. All right, now in response, Josh?
Well, I don't think I can be as elegant as Dan was, but I'd also like to, thank Dan. I mean, he's been a good friend through medical school, and we've had some good times together. It would be kind of sad for us to be on different coasts, but that's the way things work.
So his email.
I would first like to thank Michelle. She's put up with me, I think, the most throughout this whole process. Always being there for me when things were tough, and putting together a fabulous lunch for my family when I was, hungover from Dan's bachelor party. And she's been very tolerant, very supportive, and has made, in many ways, this possible for me. My parents, my grandparents, all my family have always been a tremendous support, and have also made this possible. I'd like to thank all of you for coming. And
Here.
I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Dan for being here. And it's been a pleasure to have him. He's been a very enjoyable person. I'd really like to thank the people who have traveled and come to this gathering. And I would like to welcome Amy and her parents to our family. I hope we have a great life. Thank you very much. factors in that, I would like to congratulate my future daughter-in-law. She has just graduated this year also.
Here, here, here.
Go down.
All right, now we're on camera. All right, now take your finger.
Okay, there you go.
The red light in this case is
Okay.
very important.
Camera.
Remember
Okay,
that. You got it?
you're on.
All right, now,
Don't turn it off.
in 9 days from now, my wife and I will graduate from 57 years of married life. Whoa. And,
Whoa.
yeah.
Well, let's see the bride come up
And
here.
my wife
How many
really,
happy
What's your wife's name?
Lydia, look,
Lydia.
look.
Condolences, Lydia.
And she really,
Lillian.
she deserves all the credit here because I don't know how she put up with me all this time. So,
I don't either.
oh, you're off.
Cornbread.
That Amy and I will be the first women's doctorates in our family in psychology. That I am so pleased to welcome her into it. And that I feel a very special bond with her. And that we are manifesting the women of this very, very strong family that we can also prevail in academia. And we will. So we have how many masters, how many degrees, but I feel a very special bond with Amy. We are both in psychology, and we have worked very, very hard. In a man's world, you get worried.
But it's no longer a man's world, is it?
Uh-huh. Who said that?
Amy and I
Amy, I
are
hope
part
you
of
can
changing
help
that.
What?
Here.
Amy.
Well, Amy,
Cook and sew.
Amy, you know what? Amy, you gotta say something now.
Uh-oh.
The camera's been turned.
Okay.
Gosh, well, I didn't think this was gonna be my graduation party. I just want to say that this has been a great 4 years, and it's so nice that everyone could be here to celebrate with us. And I'm really glad we got a chance to have this dinner with everyone, and it's been really great. And thank you to everyone, my new family, and my friends, and all the new people here that we're meeting tonight. Thank you.
He has vanilla and chocolate.
Oh, boy.
No Ben and Jerry's?
No. They asked him today, he went into a Ben and Jerry's and they said, what kind of ice cream do you like? Ben and Jerry's. Ben and Jerry's. What kind of ice cream? Oh, my calendars. What flavor do I want? Oh, vanilla and chocolate, but in other words, it's like, they didn't get shit.
It's,
Ask him Robin's age.
Hey, you graduated. That's so cool. Yeah, you mixed all those colors.
This is the aftermath. You do a nice job. I don't know how you handle so many people.
Have you seen Tish? He's a little green card.
Law and order. Crowd control.
The station himself with his own chair. What we do is we're going to get a chair. No, it's going to be a comfortable.
I'm not gonna get a chair. I'm just gonna sneak around right here. I'll get more guys.
Just don't get in my way. How's that? Okay? I don't think Jeffrey is going to get in there. Don't take those chairs. Those are for the students.
We're not taking much more.
Feels pretty good after sitting there.
a dentist one time. I waited there for an hour. I said, you're getting paid by the customer. I get paid by the hour at work. I had to take time off to go to see a dentist. And that was the last time he held me for, I had to wait maybe 15 minutes, but not an hour. You know, they're starting. There's another one. Sorry.
Ladies and gentlemen, the commencement of Tufts University School of Medicine and the Sackler School of Graduate Biomedical Sciences will now be in order. The Assembly will please rise for the invocation, which will be offered by Rabbi Jeffrey Summit, Associate University Chaplain.
This moment, this commencement weekend, has been within each of us for many years. And now we are here, a bit surprised, somewhat relieved, celebrating our achievements, excited and anxious for the new work and challenges about to begin. At this moment, the past and the future fill our present. Parents remember sons and daughters as young children, just beginning school, making friends, applying to college, hoping to be accepted to medical school and graduate study, growing in stature and maturity. Professors remember when you were just entering Tufts, new, unsure, beginning. Students remember each other over the past years, studying hard, existing on too little sleep, new friendships made and deepened, new talents discovered and strengthened. Let us use our time thoughtfully, spending our precious days with care. Let us commit to be healers in the fullest sense, to be compassionate and caring physicians, to be responsible researchers and scholars. Let us commit not only to heal the sick, but also to repair the broken places in our communities and in our world. Let us build families and relationships with honesty, love, and integrity. Blessed are you, Lord, who has kept us alive, sustained us, and enabled us to reach this special time. Amen.
Please be seated. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. John Harrington, Dean of the School of Medicine.
Graduates, parents, spouses, friends, faculty, alumni, guests, and everyone else in attendance today. I'm delighted to welcome all of you to the 1997 ceremonies for the graduation of the Tufts University School of Medicine. I'm sure the students thought there were times that this day might never come, and the parents and friends were gratefully and earnestly looking forward to the day that this would come and the tuition bills would end. Today has arrived. We congratulate the graduates, we congratulate the parents on everything that has been accomplished. The students have worked hard. You've had a great deal of which you have to be proud. In your future life, whether that's going to be a career in clinical medicine, basic science, community and public health, biomedical research, or health communications, all of you now have the ability to make a difference and a responsibility to contribute that difference on behalf of the people that you and I serve. On behalf of all of us at Tufts University School of Medicine, I extend my own congratulations and best wishes. As I've said on many occasions to graduates in the past, you are the future of medicine.
I would now like to introduce to you Scott Standage, President of the graduating medical school class, who will give his class address.
Thank you. It is a great honor to be given the opportunity to say a few words. I've tormented myself for hours on end to determine just the right words for this occasion. But I would be further tormented at home if I don't squeeze in a happy birthday greeting to my sweet wife, who is celebrating her birthday today. The best birthday present I could give her is upcoming. my first paycheck in 4 years. It was my wife who first gave me the words I've used as my compass as I navigated the treacherous waters of medical school. She told me, if you come to a fork in the road, take it. As my friend Carl would say, it is the termination of matriculation, and I owe a profound debt of gratitude to my classmates for showing the confidence in me that they have in allowing me to serve as class president these past 4 years. It has been a tremendous privilege that I will never forget, and I thank you. I would also like to address a very special person in the audience by quoting James Cagney. Made it, Ma, top of the world. As an older, non-traditional student, a so-called bent arrow, I already was a homeowner and I had a very good job in the real world before I entered medical school. And as I prepared to go off to the wars, my mother handed me a copy of a Boston guidebook. She inscribed in the back cover, 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the road less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Robert Frost. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott, and it's my pleasure now to introduce Dr. Louis Lasagna, Dean of the Sackler School of Graduate Biomedical Sciences, who will address this assembly.
Machiavelli, Mr. Jefferson, and Evita. Surely one of the most maligned books ever written is Niccolo Machiavelli's The Prince. Its author's last name has spawned an adjective describing ruthless, unprincipled behavior, and his first name, shortened to Old Nick, is a synonym for the devil itself. The common wisdom is that Machiavelli was a scoundrel who not only sneered at justice and noble, selfless acts, but urged others to act without regard to conventional morality. Is this scorn deserved by the founder of political science? Consider the times in which he lived. 16th century Italy was a chaotic collection of duchies and states, often threatened or dominated by hostile foreign powers. And born into this environment, Machiavelli loyally served the Florentine state for years, but eventually suffered imprisonment, torture, and exile, which is where he wrote The Prince. That book is without doubt his most brilliant book, but to ignore his other writings is to impoverish one's evaluation of the man. In his discourses on Livy, for example, Machiavelli doesn't seem at all Machiavellian. A full reading of his literary output leaves one beset with contradictions and occasional factual errors, so Machiavelli comes across as selfish and generous, cruel and benevolent, crafty and simple, villainous and romantically heroic. Many would dub The Prince a tragedy, but Machiavelli's play Mandragola is the unrivaled masterpiece, believe it or not, of Italian comic theater. Voltaire said it was worth more than all the comedies of Aristophanes, which is heady praise indeed from that tough-minded comedic genius. There is ample written evidence that Machiavelli considered republics more stable than other principalities, and that he believed in both checks and balances and the law, whose purpose, however, he saw as securing not justice, but order. And what he detested were endless intrigues and attempts to excuse incompetence by goodwill. He was the direct opposite of Plato. Abstract ideals and a utopian morality had little appeal for him. What ought to be was not the point. What is was his focus. And he urged princes to adjust their words to their deeds and not vice versa. To him, humans were in general not kind, loving, merciful, selfless, and forgiving, but actually more prone to evil than to good. He saw no divine grace operating in this world and held Christian values to be insuperable obstacles to creating a functional society. He considered it an idle waste of time to hope that men and women would all become good. But what Machiavelli posed was not a choice between morality and amorality, but between two different moralities whose values were clearly incompatible and could not possibly yield to a rational arbitration. So, was this Renaissance Florentine a cynic or a candid pragmatist? Was it a mistake to argue that politics should have its own rules, or to observe that staying in power required a ruler to change as political reality changes? Doesn't that advice capture the postural oscillations of our present successful politicians, whether it's Mr. Clinton or Mr. Blair? Isn't Machiavelli's approach similar to that of the relativist Protagoras 2,000 years earlier? And was he not, in fact, the author of the modern executive? By contrast, Thomas Jefferson has for 2 centuries been fulsomely praised for his contributions to democracy, with very few critical remarks until recently. Charlottesville residents still speak reverently of him as Mr. Jefferson. In his lifetime, he evoked such comments as these. John Quincy Adams: "You can never be an hour in this man's company without something of the marvelous." Abigail Adams, Mrs. John Adams: "He is one of the choice ones of the earth." The range of his intellectual pursuits was mind-boggling. He was an inventor, swivel chair and dumbwaiter, for example, an architect, a scholar. He had the world's most extensive library on the geography, cartography, natural history, and ethnology of the land west of the Mississippi, and his personal library became the nucleus of the Library of Congress. And it has, of course, been repeatedly asserted that no man did more for human liberty than the author of the Declaration of Independence and Virginia's Statute for Religious Freedom, a man who was also the founder of the University of Virginia. But Jefferson's life was hardly without blemishes. He used child labor to run a nail factory at Monticello, and slaves as the labor force supervised by cruel overseers to satisfy the demands of the wasteful and labor-intensive tobacco culture. While in 1776 Jefferson could pen the immortal words, "These truths we hold to be self-evident, that all men are created equal," 8 years later he wrote, "The blacks are inferior to the whites in the endowments of both body and mind." The next year he added that blacks smelled bad, were lazy, improvident, and incapable of reasoning, and rejected Hamilton's argument that these traits were in fact just the result of slavery. American Indians, by contrast, Jefferson considered to be noble savages who could be civilized as full citizens, and he was keenly interested in the Indian vocabularies and in Indian ethnology. But in fact, his Indian policy was characterized by hypocrisy. His policy was join us or get out of the way, neither of which the Indians could in fact do. Unlike Washington, whose will freed all his slaves, Jefferson freed only 5, generally thought to have been his own offspring. So, he said he hated slavery, he regarded it as a curse, he wanted to see it abolished, but not in his lifetime. He said his generation was not ready for such a step. As we might say today, he talked the talk, but didn't walk the walk. Nor was Jefferson very broad-minded about women, whom he believed should know their proper place, the home, the nursery, and not imitate French women who chased fashion and were so bold as to meddle in politics. There were other flaws in our third president. He was a profligate spender who owed $100,000 at his death, several millions by today's value. To pay these debts, Jefferson's slave families were broken up and sold. Monticello was auctioned off, leaving his descendants in poverty. He was extraordinarily tolerant of the grisly excesses of the French Revolution, unbothered by wholesale murders if the result was freedom for the survivors. His famous words, "The tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of tyrants," was inscribed on Timothy McVeigh's t-shirt when McVeigh was arrested after the Oklahoma City bombing. I cannot resist adding some minor peccadillos evident in Jefferson's many letters. He refused to capitalize the first words in sentences and always put an apostrophe in its, whether it was needed or not. My third and final example couldn't be more different from the first two. Eva Duarte Perón, the Evita of stage, screen, and Argentine history. Evita started life as a bland, untalented, illegitimate child. Her life really began when she became mistress to Colonel Juan Perón, whom she had for some time worshipped from afar. They lived together for a brief 8 years, but during this time, Evita never did anything that was not in some way an active devotion to him. Perón, also born out of wedlock, was her reason for living, as she put it. This unlikely pair, a colonel who admired Franco and Mussolini and a barely literate young radio actress, created in Argentina a political movement that legitimized and ennobled the working poor and restructured the state so as to nationalize key resources, establish general social welfare programs, and create a friendly collaboration between organized labor and the government. Perón was not just a demagogue, but a national leader with a vision that was realized by taking advantage of the political genius of the woman who became his wife and who paid attention to the minutest details, including dress, hair color, and jewelry. Said Evita, the poor like to see me beautiful. They don't want to be protected by a badly dressed old hag. Evita was transformed from a mediocre radio actress to a glamorous public figure who took on the suffering of an entire nation and made it her own. Every day, she met with supplicants, providing money for everything from dentures to wedding garments. If the money ran out, she gave away diamond clips. Evita bathed lice-infested urchins, kissed lepers, and set up hospitals and children's homes. Dying of cancer, weighing 80 pounds and too weak to stand for her husband's second inauguration, she had a plaster support made which allowed her to stand upright in the lead car and wave to the multitudes, the device hidden by a long fur coat. Thousands of descamisados, the shirtless ones, prayed for the sick Evita outside the palace, and when she died, they wept as they kissed her coffin. So, what was Eva Perón? A saint? An ambitious whore? A superb actress? A lover of the poor? A frustrated empress? Or all of the above? Now, why have I chosen to discuss this trio? Why is this crazy old Italian bothering us? I suggest that they illustrate beautifully the dangers of creating two-dimensional cartoon characters when we ignore complexity and ambiguities. Machiavelli, Jefferson, and Evita all possessed, as far as I can tell, admirable qualities. They certainly all had faults, and in that regard, they are no different from all the rest of us. And in a sense are the more interesting for the ambivalence that inevitably is generated as we count their pluses and minuses. But I wish also to stress that ambiguity and complexity characterize most of the important decisions in one's life. Hence, to maximize the wisdom of these decisions, we have to look carefully, not endlessly, and I don't want us to be paralyzed, but look carefully at the possibilities for good and for harm. I would submit that such deliberation need neither destroy one's principles nor make one accept repellent means to an end. I suggest that the education you have received to date will have proved to be a travesty if you choose simple falsehood over complicated truth. Complexity is not likely to confer tranquility upon you, but acknowledging and embracing complexity is, I believe, the most likely way to provide one with the serenity that comes from making wise choices. I wish you well, Godspeed, and be happy.
Thank you. Dean Lasagna, Dean Harrington, distinguished guests, faculty, parents, friends, and graduates. In the past few months, I have acquired 2 new titles, PhD and Daddy. Both titles have brought me new responsibilities and new rewards. More importantly, both have given me new respect for life, in both its elegant complexity at the molecular level and in its 3 a.m. wake-up calls. My training here at Tufts taught me how to make use of powerful tools to study the basic biochemical elements of life. My project carried me through many different levels of analysis and eventually brought me face to computer screen with the molecules of interest. The stark beauty and complex design of these proteins made it apparent that, although I understood some things about them, there was much more that remained to be discovered. As a result of my work, and of studying the work of many others, I have learned that life at the molecular level is as full of beauty and rich detail as the world we see around us with the naked eye. As a new father, I've come to appreciate life from another perspective. When I saw my daughter's head emerge from the womb and looked at her face for the first time, I was overcome with emotion and completely awestruck by the miracle of birth. On a scientific level, it was amazing even to begin to think about the millions of molecular interactions that had gone on to bring us to that moment. And even so, there was something more here than biological macromolecules. This was a new beginning, a new person, a new life. The delivery nurse at Beth Israel drove home this thought by handing out cups of ginger ale and leading us in a toast to life, l'chaim. Later that night, I began to realize that our central goal as researchers in the life sciences and as medical practitioners must be to life. Each of us has learned in many different ways to study and promote life. Sir Francis Bacon, the founder of the scientific method, wrote, "I would like to give this general admonition to all men, namely, that they reflect on the true ends of knowledge, and that they seek it not from any intellectual satisfaction, nor for contention, nor to look down upon others, nor for reward, or fame, or power, or any of these baser things, but to direct and bring it to perfection in charity, for the benefit and use of life." My training at Tufts and my recent interest into fatherhood have both greatly increased my desire to work for the benefit and use of life. Even if life were simply the information encoded in our DNA and the interactions between proteins in our bodies, it would be of fantastic value. But as I look into my little daughter's eyes, I know that life is far more than just the sum of its parts, and that its value exceeds our highest scientific estimations. Before I came to Tufts, I studied archaeology and worked for several months at the site of an ancient Mesopotamian city dedicated to Nergal, the god of death, the original Grim Reaper. This city had succumbed to the grisly wishes of its god over 4,000 years ago, as testified to by the bones of its children and adults that we found in the desert sand. We may also meet the same fate as a nation if death gains preeminence. In this country, we allow over 1 million unborn children a year to be aborted. We debate whether doctors can aid in suicide, and we are faced by many afflictions that are still incurable. As scientists and physicians, let us challenge the forces of death by striving to make life worth living for all. Instead of asking whether we should end the lives of the unborn, the very ill, the aged, or those with physical and mental genetic defects, we should be asking how we can use our training to improve their lives and bring them hope so that these questions become non-issues. Let us turn away from the altar of Nergal and turn to the God who created life and whose handiwork I have the pleasure of studying. L'chaim.
It's my great pleasure and privilege to introduce our speaker for this afternoon's commencement address, Dr. Peter C. Doherty, the 1996 recipient of the Nobel Prize in Medicine. Dr. Doherty was born in Australia, studied at the University of Queensland, where he received his master's degree in veterinary sciences in 1966. He then received his PhD in 1970 at the University of Edinburgh. Dr. Doherty has held professorial appointments at the Worcester Institute in Philadelphia and the John Curtin School of Medical Research of the Australian National University. For the last 9 years, Dr. Doherty has served as chairman of the Department of Immunology and the Michael F. Tamer Chair of Biomedical Research at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in Memphis. Dr. Doherty has been the recipient of the Gardner International Award for Medical Science and the Albert Lasker Basic Medical Research Award. In 1996, as I mentioned, Dr. Doherty and his colleague, Dr. Ralph Zinkernagel, received the Nobel Prize in Medicine and Physiology for the discovery of how the immune system recognizes virus-infected cells, a discovery that relates both to efforts to strengthen the immune response against invading microorganisms and certain forms of cancer, and to efforts to diminish the effects of autoimmune reactions in inflammatory diseases such as rheumatoid arthritis, diabetes mellitus, and multiple sclerosis. I think more importantly for the group graduates seated here in front of me today, Dr. Doherty is the father of one of this afternoon's graduates, soon to be Dr. Michael Doherty. We are delighted to have Dr. Peter Doherty with us this afternoon. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Peter Doherty, the 1997 Tufts University School of Medicine commencement speaker.
Well, thank you. This is really a great day. As a parent, it's fantastic to see the Tufts Medical School class of 1997 finally coming to its legitimate conclusion. Today, we not only, my wife Penny and I, not only see our son Michael graduate among his friends and colleagues from the last 4 years, we also celebrate our 32nd wedding anniversary. For those of you who are graduating today, your own sense of achievement and relief must be fantastic. It's been a very long rite of passage. I think I speak for every parent here when I say we seem to have been attending graduation ceremonies forever. You've all had at least 8 years of formal university training. You're very well educated. And I can also speak, I think, for every parent and spouse and significant other that's in this assembly when I say that everything that's been ventured and put forward to ensure your education has been, and to ensure that you're dressed up in these crazy outfits has really been worthwhile. We're really delighted to see you entering on your professional lives. Also, though there's no doubt we all love Tufts University dearly, it's going to be quite a relief to stop paying the bills or adding to your own personal version of the national deficit. This is a very legitimate cause for celebration. My first visit to Tufts was about 20 years ago. I came up to give a research seminar, and I've known a lot of your faculty, and particularly in the basic sciences ever since. I've always liked Tufts very much. Among the research medical schools, this institution has always had a perception that it's thoughtful, scholarly, among this very driven world of basic science that I live in. And it didn't surprise me when Mike started applying for medical school posts to learn that Tufts also has a great reputation for innovation in medical education, and many other institutions are following some of the Tufts model. Of course, as in any institution, you will have had some positive experiences and some negative experiences. Some of your teachers you will regard more fondly than others. That's how it is. I mean, if you ever work in a university, you know that universities are extremely complex organisms indeed, and they're really quite good laboratories for life, in fact. For some sort of life, I'm not quite sure. You can be no doubt that Tufts has left its mark on you. You will always remember Tufts fondly, and it will make a big, it has an effect. The particular character of the institution has an effect. You can also bet your life that your alumni association will never let you forget that you graduated from Tufts. Whatever happens with the HMOs, doctors are not going to be poverty-stricken. In a very fundamental sense, none of you are the people that you were when you started out 4 years ago. You made a choice back then and your lives are irrevocably changed. The physician, the surgeon, has a very special relationship to the rest of humanity. Knowledge is power, and power brings responsibility and insights that sometimes you might wish you could leave behind for a time. Your particular understanding of what it means to be human is forever biased by familiarity with blood and bones and guts and hormones and the fragility of human resolve that will permanently elude most of your colleagues and contemporaries. Whatever your future path, the next few years will almost inevitably reinforce this sense of separateness and identity. Fortunately, you don't have to assume the burden alone. You stand in a great company of scholars and practical men and women. But truly, none of you can ever go back to, as they say in the South, being just folks. Research scientists like me don't normally go through quite the same transition early in their careers. It's sort of more a continuum. My shift to an irrevocable state of being different didn't happen until 34 years after I graduated from professional school. I left high school when I was 17, went straight into the School of Veterinary Science in the town where I grew up, the subtropical city of Brisbane, Australia, the melanoma capital of the world. Avoiding the sun probably inclined me more towards intellectual pursuits. What would have happened if my Irish ancestors had gone to Boston instead? Though I had a rigorous background in science and math and chemistry, the university provided my first real contact with biology. Boys at that stage in this state of the Union of the Commonwealth were not allowed to study biology. It was only for girls. Biology has enthralled me ever since. I found it to be the most fascinating subject. The 4 years of liberal arts and science education that you went through prior to entering the medical faculty were, at least until recently, largely a feature of the American educational system. The British model is much narrower. It focuses much further down in the high school curriculum, and you get a lot of your basic science in the first 2 years of your professional course. I think your experience of formal education has been the better one, and I think the American model is a very good model for the sort of flexibility of outlook that people are going to require in this very, very rapidly changing world. After 5 years as an undergraduate, I was at the age of 22 fully licensed to practice veterinary medicine and was potentially a very significant danger to the domestic and pet animals of the world. Medical graduates were only a year older than I was, which is really scary. I didn't follow that path, partly as a result of various chance occurrences, including being bitten by a pig when I was trying to saw off its tooth, and partly from a personal tendency to take things apart. Most of my professional life has been spent dissecting the complexities of the immune response to infection. I know a great deal about disease and pathology and killer T cells and death in an academic and intellectual sense, but have no special insights into what it means to deal with sick and disturbed and even dying human beings. As a consequence, my real perception of what most of you will be doing with your lives is partial, though I have come to have a somewhat better understanding since I've been working at St Jude Children's Research Hospital. It's a very intimate institution, and working in an institution that deals with catastrophic diseases of kids leaves me with a permanent sense of amazement at how magnificent people, especially children, can be in the face of extreme adversity. I've also realised that caregivers can suffer very serious penalties, and that they have to take steps to ensure that their own personal resources are not depleted by the intensity of some of these experiences. While you're still very young, it's important to develop habits of relaxation and alternative activities that will allow you to switch off from your personal life from time to time. However, I doubt that most of you are going to have much time to do this over the next 3 to 7 years. The midweek doctor's golf game may be a standing joke, but you'll probably deserve it by the time you get to play. Though physician heal thyself may continue to resonate as a challenge, physician look after thyself is certainly an achievable possibility. My own translation to prominence, and in the minds of some, a perception of authority that bears no real relationship to either my breadth of knowledge or personal skills, has been a very recent event. I think Feynman, the physicist, summarised it pretty well, that if you take an average Nobel Prize winner outside his or her field, they're just as big idiots as anybody else. When my wife Penny answered the telephone about 4:20 in the morning some 7 months back, and a voice said, "This is Niels Ringertz from the Nobel Foundation," neither of us had any idea of what had really happened. It came 23 years after my scientific colleague, the Swiss immunologist Rolf Zinkernagel, and I made the initial discovery that led to the 1996 Nobel Prize. We'd already been given several prestigious awards, including the Lasker last year, the year before, but these events didn't make our lives much different from those of other reasonably successful senior scientists. The fact that minutes after the official announcement in Stockholm, we had telephone calls from German radio, Portuguese radio, talkback radio in Bogota, Colombia, and so forth, told us some things had changed pretty dramatically. The Nobel's a media event, which attracts intense attention for about 24 hours and maintains some sort of momentum for months afterwards. When my predecessor as an Australian Nobelist in the field of immunology, Macfarlane Burnett, won the gold medal in 1960, it was a couple of days before he knew what definitely had happened. We were told immediately they'd made the decision. Another Australian, the neurophysiologist Jack Eccles, heard a rumour that an Australian had won, thought initially he was the recipient, but he had to put the champagne back on ice until he was admitted to the Nobel Club 3 years later. This was the era of great men in Australia. Now Australia's changed, they also allow great women. But these two, Burnett and Eccles, were intense rivals in the small Australian scientific community. There's a story that may be true that they were both receiving honorary degrees on the same day. You know, these weird outfits again. Someone went off with Burnett to find him an academic cap that fitted him better, and Eccles is said to have remarked, "They'll never find a hat big enough to fit that bastard." Australians are a little bit direct in their speech. Penny says she's starting to recognise this head swelling problem, but she's a bit more tactful. Hopefully your significant others will also do the service of helping you to maintain a reasonable perspective. All of us need good critics. It's quite an experience to be fed into the yawning chasm of unfulfilled time and expectation that constitutes the linked worlds of the contemporary media and communications technologies. All of us are instantly available by email. The details of last year's Nobel Prizes were immediately available on the World Wide Web. All Nobel Prize winners are asked to write a personal account, which normally stays buried in a fairly obscure book. That was on the web within 24 hours of receiving it. I had a call, for instance, from the current headmaster of the school I attended when I was at primary school in Australia. He knew things about me because he had my records in front of him that I know nothing about. I mean, you've got to be aware that anything in your past can ultimately serve us, even if you don't actually become President of the United States. My experience has also been exacerbated by being made Australian of the Year. This was a very unexpected honour, as we've been living in Tennessee for the last 9 years. The call came on December the 24th, and I was expected in Melbourne on January the 26th. You, of course, celebrate your independence from the British as your national day. Australia Day, our national day, we celebrate the landing of convicts in Sydney. Necessitated by the very substantial failure of George III and the loss of these American colonies. Incidentally, a very short chapter in our history book was entitled George III and the Loss of the American Colonies. This was the sum total of my formal training in American history. It's pretty salutary to realise that most people have their impressions of the United States from Hollywood movies. Being Australian of the Year has meant taking 3 trips out there to date with a great deal of media attention that's really taught me a lot. It doesn't take long to learn that the television news consists largely of clips that are ruthlessly edited to eliminate anything that hints of thought or substance, or that the print media often operates on the principles that no news is good news, which of course means that no good news is news. Of course, the print media, you've seen some of it here through Rupert Murdoch, what sort of Australian media we have. The experience has involved, among lesser events, a 30-minute address to the National Press Corps, which was pretty intimidating, being on a national comedy program and being harangued by 2 guys who are really high-class rednecks. We call them hockers. Being on daytime television between a stuffed fish and an expert on hair care, and debating on talkback radio with scientific creationists, and having a fire engine, a 120-foot ladder truck named after me. I also supported the position that Australia should become a republic. The Queen of England is still officially head of state, and discovered to my surprise that about 30% of the Australian population are actually enraged monarchists. For a brief time, I experienced the sort of fame that goes with being on daytime TV soap opera. My colleague Zinkernagel says that he can now walk through Zurich immigration control without having to show his passport. This would be somewhat more useful. Switzerland has a very direct form of democracy that has its pluses and minuses. Zinkernagel is currently fighting a major battle against a referendum that would essentially shut down most studies with genetically engineered mice and much of contemporary molecular biology. The consequence of passage for the Swiss biomedical research community and for the massive Swiss pharmaceutical industry would be devastating. This theme of anti-science and anti-intellectualism is much stronger or better organised in Europe than it is in the USA, often involving an unfortunate and very misconceived alliance with the environmentalists. However, the elements also exist here and in countries like Australia. Those of us who are trying to understand how disease processes work were delighted when the AIDS community pointed out very forcibly to the Hollywood stars that they can't simultaneously be for AIDS research and against animal experimentation. Evidently, some are now claiming that NASA is refusing to release photographs of the tail of Hale Bopp that were taken by the Hubble telescope because they showed the spaceship. I've also been involved in Australia in a massive debate on childhood vaccination. There's a very vocal minority who believes that children should not be vaccinated. If you go to the World Wide Web and you search out the commentary on childhood vaccination, you'll find the most incredible collection of misinformation and paranoia. I'm sure you've already encountered some of this through talking with patients who parrot this sort of information. So I would thus remind you that the fact that we're dressed in these trappings of medieval university life reflects more than just some sense of academic pageantry. Never forget that you graduated with a doctorate from a major university. The cap and gown symbolises continuity with a university tradition that has, at least over the last 200 years or so, emphasised the triumph of reason and rigorous experimentation over prejudice, superstition and ignorance. I'm a member of the British Royal Society, which is the oldest scientific academy in the English-speaking world. The motto of the Royal Society is nullius in verba, which means nothing by word, everything by experiment and by testing and by reason. And these are the forces that have shaped our contemporary world and have been progressively transforming the character of medicine. It's some years, I think, since we had the 18th century concern of von Leibniz that a great doctor kills more than a great general. I think the switchover came in about the 1920s. You're both physicians and scientists, trained to give care and approach the world of human need and suffering from a rational perspective. Most of you will dedicate your lives to clinical medicine. You may also at times be called on to defend the intellectual basis of what you do for a living, both to your patients and in the broader community. It's dangerous to ignore the challenge. Just as the price of liberty is eternal vigilance, we must recognise that the capacity to do rigorous clinical and basic research needs to be both funded and protected from excessive regulation. Most of you will find yourselves in positions of influence where you can help to maintain and strengthen the most central human goals, the pursuit of knowledge and greater understanding. Some of you have already decided to be professional scientists. Others of you may become interested in that sort of activity as you progress in your career. There's an interesting fact that some of the most impressive biomedical research workers in the United States never intended to do research. They were simply drafted and they ended up at the National Institutes of Health and they never left. And these people are now in their 60s and 70s and have made enormous contributions. Much of biology is still seen through a glass darkly. There's a great deal to be done and enormous opportunities for well-trained and incisive minds. Both molecular biology and the application of new technologies from our colleagues in the physical sciences are likely to transform many aspects of what happens in the clinic over the next 20 years. What will not change is the need for caring, informed and perceptive practitioners of the medical arts. May your dual commitment to humanity and reason that you've encountered through the best of your experiences, Tufts, be sustained through the rest of your professional lives. Thank you.
Dean John Harrington will now present certificates recognising emeritus status to Dr. Andrew Hubos, Professor of Medicine, and Dr. R. Nuran Turksoy Marcus, Professor of Obstetrics and Gynecology, Dr. Lawrence Lundy, Professor of Obstetrics and Gynecology, and Dr. Seymour Reichland, Professor of Medicine, who could unfortunately not be here today. They will receive their certificates from Dean Harrington at a later time.
Dr. Andrew Hubos. Dr. Hubos and I first met each other at Boston University nearly 30 years ago. Dr. Hubos is an excellent and nationally known cardiologist, an expert in the area of cardiac catheterization. Dr. Hubos retired after 25 years as a member of the faculty of Tufts University School of Medicine just recently. He had served as Chief of Medicine at the Faulkner Hospital, one of the Tufts-affiliated hospitals, from 1974 until his recent retirement. Dr. Hubos demonstrated a strong commitment to the training of medical students and residents and is highly respected as a clinician, teacher, and administrator. He was recognized by faculty and students alike as one of the best teachers in the basic and clinical sciences. Dr. Hubos was instrumental in helping to obtain a training grant for primary care general internal medicine and developing a joint hematology-oncology fellowship between the Faulkner Hospital and New England Medical Center. It's my honor to present Dr. Hubos with this certificate recognizing his appointment as Professor Emeritus of Medicine. Dr. Hubos. Turksoy Marcus. Dr. Aaron Turksoy Marcus retired this past January after 31 years of service to Tufts University School of Medicine. Dr. Turksoy Marcus developed a reputation for excellence within her clinical specialty, and she was the driving force behind the successful operation of the reproductive endocrinology laboratory at New England Medical Center hospitals. Dr. Turksoy Marcus received national recognition and served as a consultant to the FDA and the NIH. She was at the forefront of the development of artificial reproductive technology and was one of the first individuals in the world to use ovulation-inducing drugs. She has taught countless medical students, residents, and graduate students over the years and continues to serve as a mentor to young scientists. It is a great pleasure and honor for me to present this certificate to Dr. Turksoy Marcus, recognizing her appointment as Professor Emerita of Obstetrics and Gynecology.
Dr. John Harrington, Dean of the School of Medicine, and Dr. Barbara Rockett, a member of the Board of Trustees, will now present diplomas to the 1997 medical school graduates.
Dr. Rockett and members of the Board of Trustees, I have the honor to present to you these candidates whose degrees have been voted by the Board of Trustees. On behalf of the faculty of the School of Medicine, I request that the respective degrees now be conferred.
Dean John Harrington, Trustee Barbara Rockett, and Professor James Hyde and Scott Ratson, Directors of the Health Communication Program, will now present diplomas to the graduates of the Tufts University School of Medicine, Emerson College Master's Degree Program in Health Communication. Peggy Newell, Associate Dean for Special Programs, will announce each candidate's name.
Catherine A. Clifford. Charlene Vimala Kimoto. Suzanne Garvey Avaska. Stephanie Monteng Tse.
The graduates of the School of Medicine will proceed to the stage to receive their diplomas from Dr. Harrington and Dr. Rockett. Dr. Barbara Chase, Dean for Students, will announce each candidate's name and the honors or prizes received.
I wonder if this lady could move back a little bit. You're blocking a lot of cameras. Thank you.
Move which way?
To your right.
Come on, Greg. Come on. It's my brother.
Jason Lawrence Adler, recipient of the Sidney S. Ellis Award in Pediatrics.
Anthony Joseph Ascioti, member Alpha Omega Alpha Honor Society. David Michael Barris. Karen Elaine Beckman. Brooke Jennifer Bloom. Joshua Michael Braveman.
Oh!
Rudy Maida Raza. Alana Lynn Brownstein. Oren Wilbur Butens, member Alpha Omega Alpha Honor Society, recipient of the Dr. Frank and Sarah Prize Fund. John S. Caskey.
Give your grandmother a
Catherine
kiss.
Shaw Cecil, recipient New England Pediatric Society Prize. Leon Chan. Narendra Chandrasekhar. Norak Chang. Josephine J. Chu.
You know, I could.
Hey, Josh.
Alfredo Saba. Hamid Salamipur. Sandra Tian Shaw.
Josh,
Mark
open the
Slominski.
diploma.
Alyssa Marie Sirocco. Scott William Stewart.
Thank you.
Wilbur Waifu Su. Joanne Denise Sweeney, recipient Dr. Ruth Marjorie Easterling Award. Rosa Annabella Tavares. Allison Renee Thompson, recipient. Yaroslav Nicholas Koch. Seth Lewis Toback. Eric Munyet Tong, member Alpha Omega Alpha. Jean Marie Tatangi.
Elizabeth Weinstein. Gerald Henry Wing. Jason Allen Winslow. Peggy Dawn Wyman, member Alpha Omega Alpha Honor Society, recipient of the Phi Delta Epsilon Women's Club Award. Joseph Edlin Eunice. Alyssa Dawn Zolma. Scott Jeffrey Standage.
Dean Harrington, Dr. Rocket, and Dr. Lydia Mayer, Director of the MD MPH program, will now present diplomas to candidates who have completed the combined MD MPH degree. Will the candidates please rise and come forward?
Recipient of the Worth F. Bloom Prize. Dan Lee Bruger. Jonathan Fisher. Moitri Mazumdar, recipient of the Dr. T. Wen Chang Scholarship for overseas travel. Scott Tomotsu Sunahara.
Honor to present to you these candidates whose degrees have been voted by the Board of Trustees. On behalf of the faculty of the Sackler School of Graduate Biomedical Sciences, I request that the respective degrees now be conferred.
Will the graduates of the Sackler School please proceed to the stage to receive their diplomas from Dean Lasagna and Dr. Rocket. Dr. John Castelot, Associate Professor of Anatomy and Cellular Biology, will announce each candidate.
Min Zhang, Master of Science, Biochemistry. Stephen James Friedman, Alpha Omega Alpha Honor Society, William Damashek Undergraduate Research Award, Dr. Morris Simkin Memorial Prize Fund, Doctor of Medicine and Doctor of Philosophy in Biochemistry.
graduating MD class of the School of Medicine please stand for the administration of the Hippocratic Oath? The oath will be led by Dr. Jonathan Schittelheim, Associate Clinical Professor of Psychiatry. For those who want to follow, the oath is printed in the program.
Any physicians in the audience are more than welcome to join in. Please repeat after me. I do solemnly swear by whatever I hold most sacred that I will be loyal to the profession of medicine and just and generous to its members. That I will lead my life and practice my art in uprightness and honor. That into whatsoever home I shall enter, it shall be for the good of the sick and the well, to the utmost of my power. Go ahead. And that I will hold myself aloof from wrong and from corruption and from the tempting of others to vice. That I will exercise my art solely for the cure of my patients and the prevention of disease. Go ahead. That I will exercise my art solely for the cure of my patients and the prevention of disease. And will give no drugs and perform no operation for a criminal purpose, and far less suggest such a thing. That whatsoever I shall see or hear of the lives of men and women, which is not fitting to be spoken, I will keep inviolably secret. These things I do promise, and in proportion as I am faithful to this oath, may happiness and good repute be ever mine, the opposite if I shall be forsworn. Congratulations, doctors.